For centuries, the Arctic was seen as nothing more than an empty expanse of ice and silence, far removed from the struggles of nations. But today, this frozen frontier has become one of the most contested regions on Earth. The pain is clear. As the ice melts at an alarming pace, it opens new shipping routes, exposes vast reserves of oil and gas, and creates opportunities for military dominance. What should have been one of humanity's last untouched spaces is now a stage for rivalry and ambition. Yet here lies the promise. By understanding what is happening in the Arctic, we can begin to see how the future of global trade, international security, and even peace itself may depend on this distant land. And this is not just about politics far away. It connects directly to your everyday life, from the prices you pay at the supermarket to the technology you hold in your hands and the decisions made by world leaders. The solution is to look beyond the headlines, to recognize the Arctic for what it has truly become, not just ice and silence, but the key battleground where China, Russia, and NATO are shaping the 21st century. While most of the world continued to see the Arctic as nothing but a frozen wasteland, China looked at it differently. For Beijing, the melting ice was not only an environmental tragedy, it was also an opening a chance to redraw the map of global trade. Out of this vision came the concept of the Polar Silk Road, an extension of China's Belt and Road Initiative, but this time stretching across the very top of the planet. For centuries, shipping routes between Asia and Europe relied on long, costly passages through the Suez Canal or around Africa. Now, as the Arctic sea lanes begin to open, those distances can be cut by thousands of miles, saving fuel, time, and billions of dollars. For a nation that thrives on trade, this is not just an opportunity, it is a potential revolution. China has not stayed on the sidelines. It has invested in powerful icebreakers, Arctic research stations, and port infrastructure. But its most important move has been its partnership with Russia. Moscow, isolated after the Ukraine war, has welcomed Chinese capital and political support. In exchange, Beijing has gained access to Russian-controlled Arctic routes, turning what was once an impenetrable wall of ice into a new commercial bridge to Europe. Imagine vast container ships, loaded with Chinese goods, carving their way through Arctic waters, bypassing traditional Western-controlled routes and shifting the center of global trade. But this strategy is not only about commerce. For China, the Polar Silk Road is about influence and power. Each new route, each icebreaker, and each agreement signed in the Arctic weakens Western dominance and strengthens Beijing's role as a global leader. And this connects directly to you. The products you buy, the prices you pay, even the technology you use, are all tied to these trade networks. If China succeeds in making its Arctic vision a reality, the balance of the world economy could tilt in its favor, reshaping the global order of the 21st century. The war in Ukraine did not just redraw the map of Europe, it also shattered the fragile balance in the Arctic. Until recently, there was at least a limited understanding between Russia and NATO countries to keep this region relatively stable. But after Russia's invasion, that trust collapsed almost overnight. What had once been an opportunity for cooperation in research, climate monitoring, and navigation quickly transformed into another arena of rivalry and suspicion. The United States, Canada, and Norway were among the first to respond. They boosted their presence in the high north, deploying troops trained for extreme conditions, conducting joint exercises, and reinforcing military bases that had been dormant for decades. New radar systems were installed, patrols over Arctic skies became more frequent, and naval fleets adapted to operate in frozen waters. The message to Moscow was clear: the Arctic would not be left undefended. Russia, however, did not back down. Instead, it doubled down on its strategy. Moscow modernized its fleet of nuclear-powered icebreakers, expanded permanent military installations, and positioned advanced missile systems in key locations across the Arctic coast. Runways capable of hosting heavy bombers were built or reactivated, and satellite surveillance of the region intensified. What was once a frozen desert is now increasingly dotted with runways, garrisons, and fortified positions. For the Kremlin, the Arctic is not just a frontier, it is a strategic lifeline. rich in untapped resources and vital for projecting power into both Europe and North America. Today, the Arctic has become a silent front line. No shots have been fired, but the military buildup continues on all sides, with each maneuver carefully watched by the other. It is a dangerous balancing act. Both NATO and Russia want to show strength without crossing the line into direct confrontation. Yet the militarization of the Arctic is a reminder that even in one of the coldest places on Earth, the heat of geopolitical rivalry is rising. The Arctic has become more than a frozen landscape. It is now a chessboard where three forces are moving their pieces with precision. On one side stands NATO, led by the United States. Determined to secure its northern flank and maintain control over strategic routes, opposite them is Russia, asserting its dominance with military power and the claim that the Arctic is part of its historic sphere of influence. And alongside Moscow is China, not an Arctic nation by geography, but one that has positioned itself as an indispensable economic partner through its ambitious Polar Silk Road. Together, Russia and China form a formidable combination. Moscow provides the territory, the military infrastructure, and the deterrent power. Beijing supplies the capital, technology, and long-term vision of global trade. Their partnership challenges the traditional dominance of Western powers in a region once considered peripheral. For NATO, this poses a dilemma with no easy solution. Respond with an even stronger military presence, risking escalation, or step back and allow Moscow and Beijing to expand their influence unchecked. This is not just about weapons or ships, but about who sets the rules of the 21st century. Every Russian missile system deployed, every Chinese icebreaker launched, and every NATO exercise in the high north carries a symbolic message that echoes across the world. The Arctic is becoming the stage where the balance of global power is contested in silence less visible than wars fought elsewhere, but no less consequential. We are entering a new kind of tripler rivalry. The United States and its allies, Russia and China, are all converging in a place once thought too remote to matter. And yet what happens here will ripple through the global economy, the security of nations, and the future of international order. The frozen North has become the mirror reflecting the deepest tensions of our time. The Arctic is no longer distant or silent. What happens there now is shaping the course of the entire planet. As the ice retreats, it reveals faster shipping routes, hidden energy reserves, and new strategic footholds. Yet every opportunity comes with deep risks. The environment grows weaker, the tensions between nations grow sharper, and the possibility of silent conflict becomes more real with each passing year. The Arctic is more than a frozen map. It is the stage where the world must decide whether to move toward cooperation or confrontation. China, Russia, and NATO have all brought their ambitions to this remote frontier, and the outcome of their rivalry will reach far beyond the ice. What seems far away is, in truth, directly connected to your life through the prices you pay, the technology you use, and the fragile peace you depend on. The future of the Arctic is, in many ways, the future of humanity. Will it serve as a bridge for dialogue and global cooperation, or will it become the next battlefield in an already overheated and divided world? The answer is still unwritten. And now, I turn to you. How do you think this story will end? Share your thoughts in the comments. Subscribe to Now and Noted Now for more in-depth explorations like this one, and help us bring these global stories to light by sharing this video.